This week we're returning to the United States in 2013. At that time, Cleveland, Ohio was experiencing one of the highest rates of infant mortality in the industrialized world, disproportionately affecting African American mothers. Since our film aired, the racial gap has grown wider, and many mothers continue to experience this tragic loss. That's why we've chosen to air this important investigation again. From Al Jazeera's Fault Line series, here is America's infant mortality crisis.
Every year in America, over 11,000 babies die on the day that they're born. Most are just born too early, their vital organs, heart and lungs still unformed. Even those who survive beyond 24 hours often die before their first birthday. But if the baby is African American, they are more than twice as likely to die. Fault Lines travels to Cleveland, Ohio to look at what's causing these deaths and to try to find out why the United States has the worst rate of infant mortality in the industrialized world. It's Monday morning in Cleveland's Metro Health Hospital. A newborn baby boy has just been rushed into the neonatal intensive care unit, known as the NICU.
-18 for the wrap.
Weighing just over 2 pounds, he's 14 weeks premature. It means he was only in the womb for less than 6 months.
He's really retracting. Do you see his blood pressure? Very low.
Well, they're right now trying to get urgent care to the baby that's just been born here literally within the last couple of hours. And right now getting respiration assistance and an intravenous drip inserted. This is the kind of scenario that happens all the time on this ward. Medical advances have dramatically improved the odds of survival for premature babies, but they haven't changed one aspect of this crisis. Almost all of the babies in this ward are black.
Just under 40% of the babies who are born are African American. But they contribute to 70% of the babies who die in the first year of life. So you have this huge disparity, and that's kind of business as usual. It's been going on for decades.
Baby Tyrione is just hours old, but he's on a life support machine. The nurses are worried about his chances of survival. Tyrione is so premature, he can't breathe without a machine pumping oxygen through his tiny lungs. It's an extreme measure for such a small baby. It puts him at high risk for infection and internal bleeding.
He's helpless. It seems like he got a tube coming from everywhere.
For Tyrione's mother, Lachey Welsh, it's an agonizing time.
I really can't do anything but just stand by and watch and wait. And it's a long wait.
But Lachey can't stay with him. A single mother with 3 other children, her earnings keep the family just above the poverty line.
My doctors have put me on light duty, and my job didn't honor the light duty. Our welfare is not enough to support me and my children, so I had to go back to work full duty.
After working an overnight shift, finishing at 7 in the morning, Lachey started having contractions. She was rushed to hospital and gave birth. But now she has to get back to work.
I hate to say it this way, but I'm kind of glad that he did come now and that he's going to be in the hospital for the next couple of months so that I can work.
So that's actually oxygen being pushed in.
Yeah, it's sort of in waves.
Even if a baby can be saved in a NICU, it's an outcome and a cost doctors say could be prevented.
You're literally talking about several $1,000s per day. So if you have a baby who's been in the hospital for 8 months, the math is pretty easy. You're closing in on $1 million of care just to get that baby home. If you could prevent one of those preemies, you save the system hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's why, you know, access to care and prenatal care is so vital.
If you have to have a baby born prematurely, United States is one of the best places in the world for that baby to be born. Our neonatal intensive care units are some of the best, if not the best in the world. That's not the point.
Dr. Arthur James is one of the leading infant mortality experts in the United States. He says that the heart of the problem lies outside of the hospitals.
Unfortunately, in this country, when we experience families who are in crisis, we generally throw everything in the kitchen sink at them to try to assist and help during that period of time. But we are not anywhere close to being that vigilant about trying to practice preventive medicine, about trying to keep families out of crisis.
Everywhere you look in Cleveland, it seems those crises are playing out.
Right here, the last one. Yep.
In a corner of a public cemetery, 24-year-old Lene Earl is visiting the grave of her infant son, Jason. He died 2 weeks ago. The burial sites are marked with nothing more than wooden sticks, but each one represents a story of personal loss.
It's just a number. And it just don't feel like people right here. Just a bunch of dirt.
It's in the hospital?
Yeah. I just wish that like the funeral home part would go. Because once that leaves, I think I might be better.
That was the hardest part. Lene had given birth to twins who were more than 3 months premature. Jason's brother died within the first few hours. The surviving child spent time in intensive care before he was healthy enough to leave the hospital. Lene says everything was normal until one night when Jason was 4 months old. He stopped breathing in his sleep and died.
I don't know what it was, but something felt wrong. And I woke up, and when I picked him up, it was just like nothing.
The doctors told Lene it was sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS, the third leading cause of infant death.
It's like losing a piece of your heart, missing a piece of your soul. Because my kids are my soul, my kids are my heart. I go to school from 9 to 4, and I'm working 7 days a week. I have no off day. I just feel so horrible because I wasn't able to protect my kids. And everybody say you're supposed to be able to protect your kid as a parent. But I feel like I failed.
So what is it that's causing so many babies to die here in this city? Why are those babies predominantly African American? And what's being done to try to stop it? Like many cities across America, the sight of boarded up businesses and devastated neighborhoods is something that's become increasingly common. But what's remarkable about Cleveland is that it also happens to be the worst city in the entire United States for infant mortality. In Cleveland, there are neighborhoods where the infant mortality rate is worse than that of countries like Guatemala, Botswana, and even North Korea. And she says her baby will be the only real family she has ever known.
I feel like I don't have anybody. My son, that's gonna be my heart. Like, no, he gonna be everything to me. Like, and that's somebody that I'm gonna love unconditionally no matter what.
Cleveland's numbers have been getting worse. Cleveland's infant mortality figures are tracked by the city's Department of Health. So we've come here to City Hall to speak to the person in charge and ask what they're doing to address what many here are saying is a crisis facing the city. As Cleveland's public health director, Karen Butler is in charge of pregnancy programs like Moms First that are designed to help pregnant mothers. despite the success of that program, some argue that it's only reaching a fraction of the population that needs help. But if you look at the picture of the city, the rates are worse than countries like Albania and Sri Lanka. That's surely not something you can be proud of.
We're not, nor will we indicate that we're proud of our numbers. We're proud of the effort. We're proud of the effort that Clevelanders are putting forth to begin to address those issues.
That's good.
Thank you.
Can I just ask about the women who are falling outside the net? Because
Yeah, we did this. Thank you very much.
But if that wasn't a perfect enough storm, now politicians at the state level are considering further cuts to healthcare.
The politicians in Columbus are playing games, to be quite blunt, and we may not get literally billions of dollars that we have coming to us, that we're spending the money, but it may not be coming back to us because politicians have decided they want to play politics. If that happens, that'll be disastrous for our state. It'll certainly be disastrous for our hospital, our NICU.
This summer, Ohio's state capital, Columbus, was the scene of heated debate over whether or not to expand healthcare coverage for the working poor.
The question is, shall the amendment be agreed upon?
Ohio's Republican-controlled legislature turned down $13 billion in extra funding from the federal government for what appeared to be ideological reasons.
I urge the failure of this amendment.
They even rejected a comparatively small emergency measure aimed at reducing the state's woeful infant mortality rates.
We asked for, in this budget, $3.8 million to be targeted where the masses of racial and ethnic minorities live in the state of Ohio, allowing infants to live until their first birthday.
Senator Charletta Tavares has been working for years to redress racial health disparities in Ohio. She proposed an amendment to Ohio's budget to fund health programs to specifically reduce infant mortality in minority communities.
Every public official will hold up a baby, will talk about how children are our greatest assets, but it seems to some communities, and the community that I represent, that some babies matter more than others.
Those opposed say nay.
The proposal went nowhere, the majority voting to move ahead without the amendment.
I'm for doing well for the poor, but you don't do it by making it easy for them to stay in poverty. You have to drive them out and make them uncomfortable in their poverty, and they will do for themselves, they will earn for themselves, and they will be much better off at the end of the day when they have earned it on their own versus when they have gotten handouts.
But why would politicians in a state clearly in the midst of a crisis, with such high numbers of babies dying before their first birthday, turn down money that could make a real difference? It's a simple question that many, it seems, didn't want to answer. I mean, we wanted a short conversation with anybody on the Republican side to talk about the health disparities. Is there anyone else that's willing to speak to us on the Republican side? Thank you. We'd love to talk to him even just for 5 minutes.
Sure. I know he is chalked up for the day, but make sure he gets it.
Okay, thanks very much. It's just about infant mortality and the healthcare provisions moving past. Thank you. All right. Eventually, we did catch up with one of them, Republican State Senator Chris Jordan. Oh, hi. Hey, I'm Sebastian Walker from Al Jazeera. Nice to meet you. Just on infant mortality in Ohio, are you aware that this is, one of the worst states in the country for...
I've got a meeting that I'm running late.
Can we just very briefly get your comment on that?
I've got a meeting that I'm running late to.
Just really briefly, this is one of the worst places in the entire country for... Just, can we just get your position really quickly, Senator? So, just a couple of minutes of your time.
We live in a system where racism is still prevalent. And there are stereotypes and caricatures that follow certain groups of people, like low-income, single, black mothers, that you're not doing your best, you're living off the system, you're driving Cadillacs, all this stuff that has no basis in reality.
Racism and poverty are intertwined. And I think each makes the other worse. but I think racism is the venom in the bite of poverty.
I would say to the politicians, okay, to stop thinking about yourselves, okay? Start thinking about the people who put you in there. Okay, have some empathy for them. Have some sympathy for them.
Before leaving Ohio, we went to see one of the mothers we'd met earlier in our time here.
Okay.
Ariel has just given birth, not to the boy she was expecting, but to a daughter who she's named Samari. Samari was full term, but substantially underweight. She has several birth defects, including a cleft lip and palate.
Once I saw her, it made me, like sad, kind of depressed. But it's something that I eventually got over because, she's gonna be here regardless, whether her lip gets fixed or not, so. She's my daughter. She has to be taken care of.
Ariel was still homeless and waiting for public housing to come through, but now with a newborn baby to take care of.
So what kind of future are you hoping for Samari?
I definitely want her to have a better education, and a better group of people to be around, a better society to live in. For the time being, we're here, so we make the best of it. But when I definitely get a chance, we definitely moving somewhere away from here.